Welcome, everybody, to the Ultimate Advisors Resource Podcast. I'm Jordan.Pence, our company's advisors resource company, and we help advisors like you write more life and annuity business. And today I've got every life insurance agent's favorite topic, and that is underwriting. And so I've brought on one of our underwriters, Will Walker. Will, thanks for coming on today. Thanks for talking to us about everybody's favorite subject. But maybe you can give a little bit of your background, and then we can kind of get into a couple questions that I thought would be interesting to talk about.
Sure, Jordan. Thanks for having me today. Yeah, here at Advisors Resource Company, access to four full-time underwriters. And we say underwriters, we're all home office trained. And for one reason or another, we moved on from the carrier side and went to the BGA side. It's always good to be a part of both sides. We understand the issues agents have, how important it is to work with clients to minimize the amount of time it takes to be in underwriting, out of underwriting, have a policy. At the same time, we understand what the carrier underwriters are dealing with, audits, what they can do, what they can't do. So it's almost like we can interpret for both sides of the fence the language that needs to be spoken to get what you need.
That's exactly what I was about to say, Will. I think that's such a huge advantage when you have somebody that can speak their language. I mean, I remember, I remember first, like I was somewhat early in my career, and I got an underwriting decision. I called up the underwriter, and I tried to argue with them, and I just got shut down. Like I was like, man, I looked like a total idiot. I should have never done that. But yeah, having you guys help us out on that, I think goes a long way because you're right. You can speak their language, so to speak.
Hey, you're trying to do what's best for your client, and we get it. And sometimes the farther you get removed from the ultimate Z client, which is the insured, the translation or how important it is to the individual, which being the carrier underwriter, they miss that. So if whatever we could do to help convey why it makes sense, why they need it, what's going on, more is better when it comes to.
So I we didn't even talk about this beforehand, but since you brought that up, like conveying the importance of what the client's doing and so forth, how important is it actually to the underwriter at the company to put together a narrative or a cover letter with an application, especially when it's maybe an unusual situation?
Very important on the unique financial, maybe ownership, or why the coverage is needed. That's where cover letters bring the most value. It's always good to put a little bit of color on the medical aspect, but carriers should, there's so many different database checks now, so many different ways that they get medical information. They become pretty versed of how to handle it. And then on the back end, you have the ability to explain if a carrier brings something that, excuse me, that they need to explain. But financially, a lot of times the insurer knows what's going on, the agent knows what's going on, but the carrier might not understand why a face amount came about, how a certain premium threshold is being hit. There's so many different uh, ways that can create roadblocks. So that cover letter becomes really important to explain the need for the insurance, what they're doing, how they're paying for it, how the calculation came from. That's the value.
That makes a lot of sense, and it's less so on the medical side of it, like explaining some situation medically, because the underwriters are going to look at whatever data they get anyways. But the financial side, that really makes a lot of sense because you're getting an app with like two boxes checked, like income replacement and estate planning, and
Yeah.
that doesn't exactly tell any story. That's just 2 points of data. So I guess your take would be on like maybe a typical overfunded life insurance policy, a life insurance retirement plan, whatever. It's not nearly as imperative because that's pretty straightforward from a financial side. What's going on? I guess unless the premiums are very high relative to their income, then we got to explain. Okay, where's the money coming from, but on the, more complicated financial cases, we definitely wanna put together a cover letter.
100%. Yeah. Asset reallocation, annuity, take your distributions, whatever that is, where the income is going to increase over the years to pay for the insurance. That's important to include in the cover letter so the carriers can understand. Hey, you say he's making 100,000, but the premium's 250. Well, that's a red flag right away, and it's going to create more questions, more burden of proof of of to the insured, frustrations, all that stuff.
That's a good
Disclosure up
point.
front, explanation, makes everybody's life
And would you say that is materially better than waiting till the back end because now it doesn't look like you're just scrambling to put details together?
100%. What happens is, and if you explain it up front, the underwriter is going to get comfortable. If the underwriter has to start asking questions and they feel something doesn't feel right, then they start requiring more documentation. So now I have to get an additional tax return or a sales agreement that the liquidity event is coming from. That creates frustrations for all parties, just because they're asking for more requirements than they would have if a cover letter to explain the situation.
That's a really good point, Will, and I've never met more well, maybe not you, but, it seems like carrier underwriters, they are very skeptical of anything you tell them, especially if it's, like, later in the case and later in
Yes.
the process, 'cause I guess probably to them, they've had every trick pulled on them, and they're, now they're like, "Ah, are you just trying to get this through, or is this real?"
Yeah, and I'm gonna also say, carrier underwriters, they get taught. There's so much. They have a lot of resources. 10 minutes of this call, I think, on the financial side, they don't have a lot of education on it. I was fortunate in my formal education. I was a finance major, so numbers make sense to me. I understand what's going on. And when you don't understand and you don't feel like you have the support to explain something, you're not going to feel comfortable with it. So the cover letter actually trains them in some respects. It gives them disclosure of what's going on, and the cynical nature of an underwriter kind of, you diffuse that, and it actually makes them feel good about a case that, okay, I want to work with this person because they explain to me what's going on, and they're working with me, not trying to maybe.
I Cynical nature is a great way to describe the typical underwriter. That is a great
And I'm
way
not
to.
trying to downplay the career. I mean, it's there. Hey, they got to protect the insurance
That's
company,
what
but
their
sometimes
job
it gets
is.
too far.
It's lit
Yeah,
100%. I would be the same way. I mean, that's literally their job is to make sure that the carrier doesn't have bad losses, so I get it.
yeah.
Um,
That they got to pay for the $6.50 a gallon of gas right now. So that
exactly.
paycheck's got to come in.
Exactly. So, underwriting times, we get a lot of people that get kicked out of these accelerated programs, and you hear from a lot of carriers like, we're doing all these things and underwriting times are improving and this and that, but when it goes through full underwriting, man, it sure does seem like it still takes a long time, and there hasn't been a vast improvement. So, and I guess to back that up, in addition, there is a lot of frustration, maybe not frustration, but I should say confusion around these accelerated programs, like what's going to get accelerated versus what's not. And it's like there's this black box and it's sort of opaque. We'll get one acceleration. You're like, dang, I'm surprised that guy went through accelerated. And then another one, and it's like, I'm surprised that guy had to do an exam. So can you give some color to that as to like why you think or what you've been hearing as far as from carriers and so forth as to why that's happening?
Yes, field underwriting has become important in a different way now, and understanding the medical history of the insured. And the easiest way to do that is to start with getting the medication lists, understanding how long they've been on a certain medication, the dosage, is it stable? And that becomes important because then it allows, if you give the information to advisor's resource, we could then say, okay, this is going to be an accelerated case or this is going to be a full underwriting case. Um, the accelerated cases can work beautifully, as you say, if they
They can be fast, like
correct,
days,
correct.
easy, like no problem.
Yeah, instant issues. The problem becomes is we sell something as an accelerated case and then it has to go through full under. And
I can't tell you how many agents call us up and they're all pissed off because they're like, I thought he didn't have to do a medical exam. And I was like, I didn't say he doesn't have to do a medical exam. I said he might not have to do a medical exam.
exactly. So that's, like I said, if you get the medication list, we could, somebody with ulcerative colitis, Crohn, something like that, that's not going through accelerated. Somebody with one depression med, just on Wellbutrin, been stable for years, that's an accelerated case. Um, Very important to understand the medication list. It might take an additional, after you meet with the clients, maybe that's a prep of, hey, what's your medication list? And then I could understand, the next day when we meet or our next meeting, hey, this is the process it's going to go through. We create expectations. Just like we talked about creating expectations of the underwriter, creating expectations for the insurer, and it makes life so much easier. There's so many database checks now when we go through accelerated that then develops into an algorithm, which we find things. So if you give us the medication that's up front, just trust me, they're going to find it. Because what happens is the one that we know or everybody is familiar with is the Milliman. The origin of the Milliman report is health insurance. It's authorizations for tests. It wasn't built for life insurance. And so what happens is these Milliman reports come through on these accelerated platforms, and oh, sorry about that. The Milliman report. These are the doctors authorize medical testing through this via the health insurance route. So it authorized echoes, it authorized stress tests, um, and then when the carriers get these reports and they overlap it with medication lists, that's where things start getting kicked out of the accelerated. Questions about is there more to the story? Is there more to these tests? Because it's very 1,000-foot level on these.
Yep.
And when you get, hey, this was declined because of Milliman report, then we have to go back to the insurer and ask them, hey, I need you to download the Milliman report, which actually is pretty easy. That's a
It
24-hour process.
it's not
Milliman's
that
pretty
big of a
easy.
deal. Yeah, we actually wrote up a one pager on how to do that to send to agents because we've gotten a lot of problems with the Milliman report lately, and we can talk about that as well.
I guess since we're on that subject, Jordan, we'll go ahead and continue with this.
Yeah. Well, actually, one thing with the accelerated underwriting. So you're saying if we want to diagnose if somebody's going to go through non-med or accelerated underwriting, the best thing that the agent or advisor can do is try to get a medication list from the client.
100%. So
Get the
what you
medication list.
share the medication list. Um, Depending on what's on there, we could feel really good. Hey, it's an accelerated case. We can feel good about going to whatever carrier you're looking for. Or we also have questionnaires, and I know it could be a couple step process. Maybe this isn't accelerated, but hey, I need a little bit more information on your diabetes because diabetes can be an accelerated case now. And we have questionnaires which, hey, what's your diagnosis date? What's your latest A1C? Are there any complications to the kidneys, neuropathy, whatever that is? Based on that answer, hey, this is still an accelerated case, or no, you're type 1 diabetic, which is not accelerated, approved. This is going to be full underwriting. Fortunately, a 3-day process might turn into 45 days because we have to get the records, which, that could be 30 days. And at least setting expectations. There's only so much back office can do. We work with, vendors to get records, things like that. But at least if the insured understands, hey, this is your timeline, it's going to make life a lot easier.
Totally, totally. One last thing before we get off of accelerated underwriting, that I was just kind of thinking about. Does it vary dramatically between carriers who's going to accelerate, one person versus the other?
So there is some variations on impairments that they'll take in accelerated. And in our four walls, we understand who those carriers are, and maybe somebody is going to take. We talked about diabetes. Why somebody no, they won't take any diabetics. So we do know that which carriers will handle what. A few of them, and there actually is an accelerated cheat sheet that is available, which will explain. Some of them have random knockouts, where hey, even if you're the cleanest wrist ever, sometimes the carrier will randomly take it, and hey, you have to go through traditional underwriting. While
So
some carriers
that's
don't.
like the random search at the TSA.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a good way to put it. Yep. And why others, and actually we've gotten to the point where most carriers now they'll do audits on the back end instead of the front ends of doing the random holdouts. But for the most part, like I said, if you have your complex medical cases, CAG and your diabetes, that's full underwriting.
Yep,
But
yep, yep.
you get the medication lists. We might need a questionnaire, a few more details. We'll within that 24 to 48 hour window. You do that prior to setting up the meeting. We'll let you know this is an accelerated case with this carrier, or accelerated case with any carrier minus maybe the random knockouts, or the third trail is hey, this is full underwriting.
Well, and Will, to your point, I think that goes a long way with the advisor and the client because if the advisor is sitting across the table from a client and saying, "Yeah, you know what? They have this accelerate, this company or this company has this accelerated program," and you can go through and with no medical exam, all all the all the client hears is no medical exam. They don't hear the you could or you may have to do an exam. They just hear you don't have to do an exam. And then when you come back to them and say you have to do an exam, you sort of lose all the credibility. So, or not all the credibility, you lose some credibility. And I think if they can just gather those medication lists on the front end, that's going to diagnose if they have any of those issues pretty quickly. And then we can see if they're going to go through. So
100%. People hear what they want to hear. So they hear
Yep.
no exam, that they're going to stop. Everything's going to shut off. So
Exactly. So the Milliman report, we've gotten a couple declines, I think unwarranted declines in the past from the Milliman report. The Milliman report seems like a mega pain. Like you mentioned that scraping health insurance data or health insurance claims records. And you know how these doctors like to order stuff. It's a huge challenge. How do you overcome that other than just order the report and verify that it's accurate?
so as you just said, like we talked about, its origin is health insurance. Authorize tests, authorize referrals, all that fun stuff. So good, bad, or indifferent, here in the underwriting department, we become very versed in how to review these and how to overcome it. And overcoming it ideally is engagement with the insurer. They download it, you share it with us. We can go through these reports very quickly and can identify what caused the issue. It might be I've seen where you have alcohol abuse one time in 2020, whatever, everybody was stuck at home, had a few more cocktails than they did previously. Doctor wrote alcohol abuse. The rest of the report is clean. There's never a mention again, but that one notation knocked you out, caused a decline. The engagement with the insured then becomes, hey, something from the doctor, or maybe we could try a letter from the client explaining the situation, removing the alcohol abuse. The offer is there. It might be something talking about valve issues with your heart. Carrier seeing that, hey, it's a decline. The notations of the valve issues was really just to authorize an echo. Hey, go on your patient portal, download the echo. If the echo was clean, now we went from a decline to standard to preferred. So it really becomes the burden. Unfortunately, the burden of proof becomes on the insured, and then we'll give specific instructions of 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 how to what to get, how to get it, and then we'll do the negotiations with the insurance carrier. But that does add to the back end of the case. But what I want everybody to understand to get out of the call is we can overcome these situations. Now, sometimes, hey, the insurer never disclosed anything, and those reports can look pretty ugly. And hey, guys, there's nothing we could do. But a lot of times we can save cases.
Yeah, I always joke and say, when they say my doctor said I'm healthy, and what the part they left out is you're healthy for someone who just had a stroke.
Exactly. And remember, there's always a difference between clinical medicine and life insurance underwriting.
Yeah.
So, something like you said, you have a stroke, no residual, take these medications. Hey, we want to make your quality of life as good as possible. But for the life insurance underwriter, hey, we're dealing with actuarial analysis, statistics. Even though somebody, yeah, hey, we want the quality of life as best as possible, there's still a mortality risk down the road.
Exactly, exactly. So, no, I think that's interesting with the Milliman report. So, personally, um, I I've run across this a bazillion times with other people, and I know it intimately for myself. I went to a cardiologist, primarily because my dad actually had some heart issues, and so I just wanted to get checked out, right? And I go to the doctor, and on the walls, they got all these things about, "Do you feel tired during the day? Do you feel this? Do you feel that?" They talked me into doing an at-home sleep study. I knew what was gonna happen with the sleep study. It was gonna come back with, "You know what? You have mild sleep apnea." So, of course, I agreed to do the sleep study. I do the sleep study, and then they review the results, and it's like mild sleep apnea, and I never did any follow-up with that, and that's like so many other clients, and I knew better than to do that, but I guess the long and the short of that is now, instead of being a preferred, I think the last underwriting I did, I was at standard or preferred plus even. I should probably be preferred plus. What does someone in my situation need to do to get that cleared out? Or maybe I actually do really have an issue. I don't know, but I don't think I have sleep apnea. I don't feel like I fit the profile, but what should someone like that has some record in their medical records that says you have this, but you don't really think you have that?
So in your situation, the beauty is that the keyword was mild. Just like in most people, the impairment list, what we have, there is the mild. So somebody with mild sleep apnea, Jordan, that would be, know if you tweak your how you sleep, maybe you make sure you don't sleep on your back. It would be a cover letter saying, "Hey, took this home sleep study, uh, sleep apnea to avoid uh, uh, to to avoid daytime fatigue, to avoid not being sleepy while driving. I sleep on my side. With that, no longer tired. Have the energy, all that fun stuff." Um, on different impairments, yeah, so there's not a lot of black and white things in the underwriting world.
It's all
Cancer
gray, right?
this, exactly. Cancer is there's a pathology report. This stage, this grade is what it is. Diabetes, this could be about as close as black and white as you can. Hey, this is when I was diagnosed. Here's my A1C. This is the rating. But things like where you talk about sleep apnea, that's where maybe on the back end, if it gets, if somebody brings it up, um, we can then help the underwriter understand what's going on. So, hey, Jordan, we found out you had that mild sleep apnea, you did the home sleep study. And sometimes home sleep studies, they rely on you putting all the
Oh,
different, um,
and when I did it, I slept like absolute crap. I couldn't
yeah.
sleep with that thing on me, and so I even told the doctor, I was like, "I don't have sleep apnea. I didn't sleep well when you made me do this." So, yeah, that's a good point too.
Yeah, so it relies on putting on the device correctly, but that's where a cover letter helps. Hey, I've done X, Y, and Z to, maybe, hey, I don't have caffeine after, 1 o'clock or something like that. Whatever. There's different ways, and we can assist the agents and you and whoever it is with the insurer. Hey, let's address it this way. Um,
That's a good idea.
we've also this is a little more difficult just because you have to bring in another person. But we write doctor letters here too. If there's any kind of ambiguity or something doesn't make sense, or hey, there was a test order and it wasn't done, explanation of why the test is no longer needed. So there's always different methods to our madness. We ultimately want to get to the rating you guys can place, and we always got to remember we want to help out the ultimate Z customer, which is the insurer. So whatever we could do to help them out is what we want.
So maybe just explaining the situation, writing a cover letter to go on. Look, I understand it says I have mild sleep apnea, but the symptoms have gone away because, I use breathe right strips. I sleep on my side. I don't have caffeine, and now the symptoms have subsided. That's an interesting way of doing it. I thought maybe like
Y-
I should do a real sleep study as well or something like that, but
And
that
Jordan, that's between you and your doctor of how you feel. You're the one that knows you continue to have symptoms. If you feel maybe hey, there's something fundamentally wrong, then yeah, you want to go to an in-lab sleep study. I mean, there's the technology that we have, the Apple Watches, you could see the oxygenation rate that your body's getting when you sleep. It's amazing what we can get now, but a formal sleep study can really identify is there an underlying issue, and you really if you're having symptoms, and that goes back to the clinical medicine, but never saying, if something's going on, talk to your doctor.
yeah.
Let's figure that out.
Yeah.
Of course, age old rule, let's try to place your insurance before you get a bunch of tests. I mean, we know all the different scams that are going on now. Do it before,
Good
get the
point. Yeah,
insurance
don't
before.
talk to your doctor, get your insurance, and then go see your doctor.
Yeah, but at the same time, you might doing this as long as I have my But if you could get the insurance before you do the test, let's do it. Because the more scans you do, the more something comes up, and then you have to have additional tests. The thing that we're seeing now a lot is those Prenuvo scans, those full body scans. And they're great. They serve purposes, but then they find one little lesion in your liver, or you pick the organ, and it's a postponement at the carrier. Hey, we have to investigate it. Then you got to pay for another scan that individually just looks at that certain issue, and 9 times out of 10 it comes back normal. So that's kind of what we talk about of how do we avoid uh how do we avoid dragging the insurance process too long, and that's handle your insurance first before you get a body check, like we, take our car.
That's a really good point, Will, because yeah, those scans, they'll pick up whatever it is, and then now you got to go investigate that, or else you are a postpone. Which I don't blame the insurance
Correct.
company. If I just did a scan, you guys get well, the insurance companies get one shot to
One shot.
underwrite this. It's not like they can underwrite it again next year or the year after. It's like one shot, and if they get it wrong, they get it wrong, and that's on them.
You nailed it, Jordan. Yeah, the beauty of the clinical side is you can investigate and keep following up. Life insurance one shot deal.
Yeah, which is kind of surprising that they do it that way. I guess I understand, but yeah, that's certainly a challenge. So, final question, from all the companies that we do business with, where are you seeing? Because I get this question from agents all the time. Where are you seeing the best underwriting decisions?
So, our job is to understand what each insurance carrier is using and how to underwrite a case. So that means there's multiple. life insurance underwriting manuals. There's different crediting programs. Programs are used differently, whether it's term or perm. So the beauty of the brokerage side is it gives us options, selection, just like the accelerated world, the fully underwritten world, which that's what we handle day in and day out. We understand who's the best with diabetes, who does better with coronary artery disease, who does better with ulcerative colitis. Where, hey, I'm a Lincoln Financial, which I'm sure many of your agents have done cases with them over the years.
Yeah.
If you had a GI case, a Crohn's, ulcerative colitis case, something like that, never go to them. They're always 2, 3 tables worse. But if I had a client that had one of those EBCT calcium scans, they're more aggressive than many other carriers. So it's really based on, it truly is each individual takes on its own life.
Yep.
We're going to mirror the underwriting with the product that they're looking for. So, I mean, we have the main industry manuals that many of you guys heard, Swiss Re manuals, the biggest one, but we have several carriers that use Hanover Re. We have some carriers that are now starting to use the January manual. We have some proprietary manuals like Prudential, John Hancock. Um, uh, so the beauty of seeing so many cases, working with these underwriters, having calls, whether that's monthly or quarterly, with the leaders of these underwriting departments, we understand where's the best place to go with.
Yeah.
So, and
So
that's
it
our
just
job.
comes down to we've got to understand. There's no like company X isn't just way looser than company Y. They all sort of specialize based on their reinsurance and their manuals and so forth. And what we need to really do is just understand the case and the client's goals and what issues they have.
100%. Now, there's some black and white where it makes sense to go to a certain carrier. We talked about before we jumped on this, Jordan, of what we call exam-free underwriting,
Yeah,
where, hey, my client just had a physical in December, included blood, urine, EKG. He doesn't want to do an exam. Where do I go now that they have this? So we actually have a cheat sheet on that. And I actually counted it out because I knew it was a lot. There's 11 insurance carriers that do have it. Uh, so, hey, we can go to one of these. And typically we could find a product of one of these 11 and say, hey, it makes sense to go there based on the age, the the recent exam that was just done, and then, hey, whatever's going on in the medical history, hey, this is the carrier to go to. Uh,
totally.
there's only so many programs so Symetra, I'm going to bring up them. They don't have one of these exam-free programs, but right now they have their uh, upgrade on their IUL product. Hey, if you prefer, we'll upgrade you to super preferred right away for $5 million. Well, they also have a crediting program. So if I feel comfortable a well-managed ulcerative colitis, I understand that's going to be a standard risk based on medication, your GI records, all that stuff. They actually have a crediting program that could take that standard to preferred. So now I'm at preferred, and because they have the program that I think runs through, I think it's July it runs through,
Yeah, a couple
I
months.
can then go preferred to best class. So that standard ulcerative colitis case on an IUL platform could be all the way up to best class. So
That's
different
fantastic.
tools is understanding what exists out there. How do we use that to get the client the best offer?
I love it. I love it. I think that's what it comes down to. It's just the collaboration, the partnership, and working together to get the best deal that we can. And just understanding
Yeah,
all the facts. I mean, hey, we're the insurance company is going to find out. We got to know to do our best job, so that's
exactly. You nailed it. There's no hiding things anymore. There's
no,
There's
no,
lab pictures that's connected with exam one, and almost everybody's lab facility has some kind of loose connection with exam one. So if you've done labs, they run that lab picture report, it's there. The millimeter report is always available, it's there. It's just, the RX check. So hence my whole thing, just start by getting the medications. You get the medications, I can tell you what's going on. And
totally.
if it's, hey, we need some verification of why they're on a medication, We'll ask for the question, our last questions, and then we'll put you in the correct route to go to for the best interest of the client. Time,
Exact
speed, rating, all that.
exactly. So, well, unless unless you have anything else to add, Will, I think that's a good place to end it. And I appreciate your time and your expertise, working on all our cases and everything. So thanks again, Will, and thanks everybody for joining us.
Thanks, Jordan. Appreciate it. Anytime you want me on, just let me know.
Cool. Thanks, Will.
All right, guys.